a very nice suit, Mr. Takagi. To be ashamed to ruin it. I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a 4. Give me the code. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know it, I'm telling you. Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
You can't tell the guy who has a gun to your head, you're just gonna have to kill me. You can't do it.
Do you think he knew the passcode or whatever it was? Do you think he knew, or was he really telling the truth? Like, I really don't know. You're gonna have to get on a flight and go get it.
I didn't believe him.
He seemed like he was lying.
He had that code.
His face was the face of a liar. Like, he was absolutely lying.
He was trying to call a bluff of a man he didn't know was willing to do what it takes to get the code.
So you thought he was going to shoot him? Like, I mean, I know this movie's been out for 30 plus years at this point. You knew he was going to shoot him, right? Like, it was obvious.
Yeah, I mean, the tenor in his voice when he was counting to 3 seemed very serious.
He seemed very serious and very annoyed that he just didn't have this code. Like, just give me the code, you know?
I mean, he used the count to 3 move. I mean, that's usually reserved for parents and children. I mean, I would mess around with a guy who does the count to 3 move.
You can't disrespect that. You have to respect the counting, and he clearly didn't. And he didn't count to 5. He counted 3.
Like, and he said there will be no 4, and there wasn't. There was no 4.
He was not. So I'm going to count to 3, Badway. We're about to start the show. So if you're ready,
I'm scared. Now I'm scared.
Welcome back to the Last Row podcast. This is episode 145. I'm coming back after a mini hiatus. We'll touch on that in a second.
We're going to count to 145, Drew. We're going to count to
145, and then I'm going to begin the show. 1, 2. So if you're looking for our website, check us out, thelastrowpodcast.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at The Last Row Pod. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Happy New Year, Badway. Welcome back. Do you feel refreshed? I don't, but do you?
No, but we're here. We
have a commitment to the people.
We're back. Had a little mini hiatus. Not planned. Things happened, but we're happy. We're healthy, and we're back, and hopefully on a regular schedule.
Yeah, we'll be back to the 2-week thing. That I was proud of us. We had every new episode every 2 weeks for a long time, and hit a little bit of a snag. But thanks for sticking with us, everybody, and excited to talk about this movie today.
Yeah, when we release this episode and the download numbers are 0, we'll know everybody left. So
if they didn't leave us after 3 years of being off, and then we shadow drop a new episode, maybe they're still out there. Please, guys, don't leave. Please. And thank you for everyone that stuck around.
Please. Die Hard, like this podcast, we die hard. July 22nd, 1988. Not a theater movie for us Utes back in 88.
No.
With a runtime of 2 hours, 11 minutes. Oh, wait, before I ask you this, before we get into all that, is this the first Die Hard movie you've seen? Because mine was 3.
Honestly, I don't remember. It probably was, but I might have seen 3, like, because of the age that we were, because 3 was what, like in the early 90s? I forgot the exact date.
It was like mid to late 90s, I feel. So it was like we could have seen it as young teenagers or 12-year-olds or whatever. It was more possible for us to see an R-rated movie, at 12 than at 4.
Maybe I did see 3 first. Yeah. I don't remember, but I definitely saw 3 more than this one. I would say that. With
a runtime of 2 hours and 11 minutes, just about right. Bordering on too much.
It was too long. It didn't feel like 2 hours and 11 to me. I'll say that.
Yeah. Action/thriller directed by our boy John McTiernan. Drew. Name another John McTiernan movie.
Is it Predator? Is that?
Yes.
That's what I was thinking, right? That he's a legend on this show.
Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Man, Last Action Hero is underrated.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Director of photography, Jan de Bont. Drew.
I know our boy Jan
de Bont. Our boy Jan.
He knows how to film a boat.
Yeah.
He knows how to film a bus. I'll tell you that. And it's our boy Jan. Jan, as some would say.
Jan DeBant in America. Screenplay by Stephen De Souza. Our boy Stephen De Souza of Street Fighter and Judge Dredd and Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Flintstones fame.
You know, I was recently listening to our Street Fighter episode, and I have to give us credit. Like, I just
you're gonna do that. You're gonna give us.
I'm gonna do that. If you guys haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
I was enjoying that one, and I was enjoying Steven D'Souza. But man, after working with Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's not surprising to think that he didn't want to go back to.
So yeah, that's the highlight that he wrote Street Fighter and Judge Dredd. And
Commando
by the way, he did Commando and Running Man, and he adapted Die Hard.
Yeah, he's kind of good.
But forget those movies. Let's talk about Street Fighter more.
Street Fighter. I'm a fan. Yeah. I'm a fan. This is an all-star cast here because we're going to talk about That Guys, and so I had That Guy Hall of Fame coming up too.
There's a lot going on. IMDb 8.2 out of 10. Too low. All-time action movie. Rotten Tomato 94%.
That's about right.
Better. That's better. Metacritic 72%. Too low. Letterboxd 4.1 out of 5.
Too low.
Pretty good. I don't know. What do you want? 4.5?
If you're not an action fan, maybe I could see you going in there going, this is a 1
I like
star.
Bruce Willis better when he was
moonlighting.
Sexy, when he was moonlighting.
I gave it a 5, just for the record. Gave it a 5.
For the record.
And shout out, I got to do this. Shout out to our friend of the show, JJ. Thank you for getting on Letterboxd, JJ.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey,
I'm so glad that you got on there.
What's his handle? Can we give him a shout out?
Friend of the show, JJ, movie extraordinaire, fan of movies, movie sponge on Letterboxd. Go give him a follow on Letterboxd if you're on there. And for the record, I'm on there too. Last Row Drew is my handle. Badway, you're on there too, right?
I believe Hey Badway, but it's been a long time, and I gotta kick it up. It's been a long time since I've been on Letterboxd, but I would assume, Drew, I'm going to call you out. Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I feel like you give a lot of movies 5 stars. Is that right or wrong?
It's not.
Am I wrong on that?
You're
okay,
wrong.
Good.
You're actually
glad
wrong.
that you're selective.
Let me tell you, like when you go to Letterboxd, it gives you a curve. The highest ratings that I've given, so I have 31% of my ratings are 4-star. Then I have 18% are 3.5, and my second highest actually is 3 stars. So right in the middle.
See, I feel like if I was like active on it hardcore, there'd be a lot of 5s and a lot of 1s.
I only give I give a very rare. Is it 5? I mean, rare. I've only given 51 movies of 899. So only 6% of my movies have 5 stars.
Do me a favor right now. Give me the first 5 you see on there and the first 1 you see on there that you scored.
Of
give
my
the people,
first 5 stars?
Give the people a taste of what you're rating.
Here's my 5 stars. Okay, number 1, Kelsey, 5 stars, 5 out of 5. Go Birds.
Okay, go Birds. What's the first 1 you see on there?
The first 1, let me go see. And it's doing it in chronological order. Hold on.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't have a 1 star.
Wow, this guy.
No, I lied. Actually, I lied. That was a 0. My first one, 1 star, 50 Shades Darker.
Okay, fair enough.
The second one, 50 Shades of Grey. The next one, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, House of the Dead, Catwoman, The Happening, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Those are all my 1 stars.
Silver Surfer. That was an
Fantastic
awful movie.
Four. It was
deserved 1 star. The Fantastic Four Silver Surfer movie.
Terrible. Here, let me give you a taste of my 5 stars. So I got Kelsey, John Wick 4, After Sun, Roadhouse, Christmas Vacation, Top Gun Maverick, Predator, The Batman. It goes on and on. Go check out my page. Okay. Last row Drew.
You're pushing it with the Batman, but we'll move on.
It's a masterpiece.
We'll move on.
I'm a Batman fan. Come on.
That's like a 4.1.
Ghostbusters. Here we go. Terminator 2.
New York City policeman John McClane is visiting his estranged wife and 2 daughters on Christmas Eve. He joins her at a holiday party in the headquarters of the Japanese-owned business she works for. But the festivities are interrupted by a group of terrorists who take over the exclusive high-rise and everyone in it. Is that fair to say? Like, do they take over everyone?
I don't think so.
Have you ever been tooken over?
They crashed the party, but I don't know. What if they just let them have the party still?
You take over the building, but it's like you take over the people.
Yeah, they did have them rounded up and like sitting in a like the fountain.
Yeah, it was a takeover. Very soon, McClane realizes that there's no one to save the hostages but him.
You forgot about Ellis.
He could have just left and be like, you know what? It sucks for those people. Wouldn't that be a good movie?
Well, they locked him in though, so I guess he couldn't unless he jumped off the roof. But
yeah, well, he didn't know the building was going up in flames until the end. But
what was it a retcon that he has 2 daughters? Because I thought he had as a son. Like he has a son, which is Jai Courtney.
I don't know, and it doesn't matter. I guess
it doesn't matter.
I mean, they could just do whatever they want.
I don't know. You're right. I mean, hey man, Steven D'Souza.
I mean, let's ask Walter Peck. Who did
Walter
he interview? Did he interview two little girls or a little girl and a little boy? What did he do?
It's hard to tell these. It's like they're that young, maybe a different haircut. Who knows?
Yeah. Is that a girl or a boy? We don't know.
It's hard. There was like 15 taglines, and I had to lower these down to 6. It's still too many, so I'll try to be brief. But let's go through these. So first one is actually pretty interesting. Put this on the movie poster. It will blow you through the back wall of the theater.
Whoa,
that's offensive.
I don't want anything to blow me through anything when I'm at the theater there.
This is pre-butt punishing 4DX too. By the way,
that's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of some butt punish.
1988.
Nah, I don't want to be blown through the back wall of the theater next.
That sounds like an unpleasant experience there. 40 stories, 12 terrorists, 1 cop.
I like it. It's a rule of 3. It's a good one.
40 stories of sheer adventure.
What is it? Is it an amusement park ride? What is going on?
Right?
Get out of here.
40X. High above the city of LA, a team of terrorists has seized a building, taken hostages, and declared war. One man has managed to escape, an off-duty cop hiding somewhere outside. He's alone, tired, and the only chance anyone has got.
No, I feel like this is on the poster. I've heard of this before, but it's like, we don't need the life story. It's no, next.
Let me watch the movie,
Yeah.
12 terrorists, 1 cop. The odds are against John McClane. That's just the way he likes it.
Does he like it that way?
See, I don't think he likes it that way.
I think he'd rather it be easy.
He accepts it that way because he has no choice.
I think he'd rather be one-on-one.
It should be 12 terrorists, 1 cop. The odds are against John McClane, but he's got to deal with it. That's what it should say.
He doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it.
He's got to deal with it.
Yeah, that's better. Put us out there, man. Yeah. And by the way, they call it a tagline, not like synopsis, right?
Yeah, not tag synopsis. Right?
Now, here's one that leads into my next point, but it's Christmas Eve in LA, and the party action's about to explode on the 40th floor. So, I guess they were going to blow up the 40th floor, but they also, John McClane blew up like the 15th floor or something.
Yeah, or like the 5th or whatever it was.
And I'll say this. Now, look, we were originally, before pre-hiatus, mini-hiatus, we were going to put this out for Christmas. And I know it's like this tired debate, like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? Like, whatever, right? But I'll tell you what. I sort of went in thinking like, it's been a while since I watched this. Maybe people are right. Maybe it's not a Christmas movie. But let's end this once and for all. And we don't have to debate this. We don't have to go into detail. But the amount of Christmas stuff in this movie is outrageous. Like, it's set at Christmas time. It's set around a Christmas party. There's Christmas music, Christmas trees. They talk about Christmas. He's visiting family for Christmas. Like, outside of it being about Santa Claus and like Santa Claus delivering presents, like, what more Christmas could you have? Like, I'm sorry, it is a Christmas movie. Done. It's over.
It's over. It's over. And I watched the movie not thinking about it, and then realizing how much Christmas was in this movie, and I was like, it's over. It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
Done.
For the amount of people that argue against it, I'm like, wait a second. I was almost on their side.
I'm not winking. I don't have a stupid smile on my face when I say it. It's not a troll job. It's a Christmas movie. Let's end it. Let's drop it.
I agree.
So
financials. They had a pretty swanky Christmas party here and a pretty swanky building. The budget was $28 million estimated, and man, this thing was a hit. 143.6 million return cumulative worldwide gross. I mean, this was a smash hit, some would say, and it even had the awards to back it up. So it had a ton of Oscar nominations. There's a bunch of other awards, but I'll just name a couple here. It was nominated for Best Sound, nominated for Best Film Editing, nominated for Best Special Effects, Best Effects, Sound Effects, and Editing. And then it was also nominated for Best Effects and Visual Editing. I mean, this was a great movie, and I don't think you could argue against it. And that was the Academy sort of recognizing this thing. I know people say that's like, oh, turn your nose up, but clearly people respected it.
I'm surprised it didn't win adapted screenplay, too.
Yeah, it should have.
That's crazy to me.
Because it's a book, right? It was based on a book, which is interesting. So, I mean, talk about this. You asked me in the beginning of this, which one did you see more? Now, I think we have to save some of this because we're going to have to do the other. Maybe we'll do 3. We'll see if we go up to 4 and 5. But where would you rank this thing at the time of watching this in, January 2024 here? Where would you say this falls with you within the broader saga?
First of all, we're not doing 4 and 5.
You have I like Timothy Olyphant, man. He's our boy.
Yeah, he is our boy. He's a you son of a bitch kind of guy. Die Hard with a Vengeance, 1. Die Hard 1 is 2, and Die Hard 2 is 3. And I'm not even ranking 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think 3 is almost a perfect movie. I love 3.
I was going to say, man, when you said, yeah, we're not doing 4, I imagined Timothy Olyphant, like with the smirk from our Girl Next Door cover art, just doing the smiling, like, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. You got me. I know this movie sucks.
So do you think that 3 is a better movie or it's more fun? Like, what makes you say that it's the best one for you?
Both, maybe. Maybe both.
3's a great one.
Maybe 1 is better acted, but I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to find a better story than the whole Simon Says scenarios and it's very similar to the end of 1 with the kind of like the bad guys putting on a ruse to think they're blowing up the gold, but they're actually stealing it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think all of it is better than 1, and people might fight me on it. And I'm that's personal preference. That's I'm not going to argue, but like that's me.
I think you got to respect too the fact that the third movie of a trilogy was that strong too. And I think there's a lot to be said for that because typically by the third movie in a trilogy, you're like, all right,
right on fumes. Yeah.
Especially if it wasn't like a cohesive story across the 3 movies. It's like, hey, there's the third one that we've made. And, Sam Jackson's great. You got Jeremy Irons is awesome. Like, it's a great movie. So I would agree. I still think for me, I would say 1, 3, 2. And I couldn't even tell you the last time I watched 2. I don't even remember.
And 2 gets a bad rap just because it's just not as good as 1 or 3, but it's still like very strong.
Yeah.
It's not 1 and 2, 1 and 3.
What about this? You asked me before we started recording this about the video games.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that because you have a pretty solid history with these.
Yeah. So one of my favorite games of all time, and I don't know if anyone else even cares or knows this game existed, but the Die Hard trilogy for PS1 is an all-time game for me, where it's like the first one is Nakatomi Plaza third-person shooter. You have to rescue the hostages and escalate up the building. 2 is a rail shooter in the airport, and 3 is a driving game where you have to defuse the bombs that Simon's setting all over New York City. And you got like this fake Samuel L. Jackson voice actors. Are you aiming for these people? And he's doing all this thing.
Is it more offensive that it's like he's trying to be Sam Jackson?
Yeah. It's clearly a guy trying to be Sam Jackson. It is not Sam Jackson. But it was a great game. And then you got the arcade game where I believe it was skinned from just a Japanese kung fu game. Yeah, like a Sega game. And they skinned it to have John McClane running up the tower. It's kind of like a beat 'em up, like a Street Race type. You could pick up weapons along the way, guns, rocket launchers, swords, broomsticks, what may have you. Solid games, man. Have you had any experience with these?
Do you remember the one? And maybe I'm mixing it up because there was an arcade at the mall near us growing up, and there was like those rail shooting games. So you had like Time Crisis, you had Area 51, and then you had House of the Dead. T2 was another one. And Revolution X, but this was one that had more like the police trainer like gun, not like X. Why they made a rail shooter about Aerosmith.
That's awesome.
Like, and the thing is, when Revolution X was out, I didn't even realize it was Aerosmith. Like, I had no idea what this was. It was just like this wild '90s like rail shooter. It made no sense to me, but I vaguely remember, and maybe I'm misremembering it, but wasn't there like a rail shooter game that was sort of like Area 51, but it was Die Hard? Am I misremembering that?
I feel like you're right. I feel like I remember it in our mall, but I don't remember the name of it or anything like that.
Maybe it wasn't that. I have to look it up or something, but I thought it was a shooter with the actual gun. But maybe I'm mixing up the one that you were talking about, like the one with
maybe the PS1. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I love the arcades. I'm glad they're sort of making a comeback. Unfortunately, they're a bit expensive these days to try to go. But man, I miss the arcade. I'll tell you, like I don't know, and a good video game like adaptation, like the one you were talking about, the PlayStation game. Like I think the 3 that you mentioned, the way that they did them, it's genius because you get 3 different kind of games in the trilogy of the games, which is pretty awesome. I played that probably a little bit, but I didn't play it like you and our friend did. So
I was all about it.
Let's talk about John McClane. And we can't do that without talking about Bruce Willis and having a moment of Bruce Willis appreciation.
Just a moment.
I think we mentioned this on one of our previous shows, but obviously Bruce Willis retired from acting. He's dealing with aphasia, which is a form of similar to dementia, unfortunately, right? Bruce Willis is an awesome actor, man. I love a lot of his movies. and this being one of them. But it's like at the time, right? He wasn't seen as an action star. He was on Moonlighting. You joked about it before, but people were probably looking at him the way they looked at Michael Keaton when he was Batman. It's like, how's this guy going to do this movie? What's your favorite Bruce Willis movie? And you could include this one if you want to.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to leave out Die Hards, but like you could say Bruce Willis movie, or you could say role, because he does a lot of ensemble movies too.
True.
Right. So I got two. One is Sin City. I love his role as Hartigan in Sin City. And the other is a movie, full blown movie. His Unbreakable, the M. Night Shyamalan.
Great movie.
Love Unbreakable. I thought he was great in it. So those two stand out for me as the Bruce Willis favorites.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned like role, like obviously Sixth Sense was great. You know, Pulp Fiction like was a great like sort of role. Like I know he's barely in it, but my favorite, and this might surprise people, it's probably not one that everyone's gonna say, is The Fifth Element. I love that movie. Man, I saw that in the theater when it came out, and I just remember loving that movie. And probably my favorite of his. I mean, like you said, there's a bunch of other roles, like obviously Expendables 2, whatever, right? But I would say probably The Fifth Element is my favorite movie of his. And I think when you talk about him possibly being good enough or the right fit for this, I don't know that any other actor could have made this as successful. Maybe there's a handful, but we read some rumors about people that were almost casted in this. Like, could you see anyone else playing John McClane? And forget like 2 and 3, because those are sort of more action oriented, maybe. Yeah. Like in the first one, the way that it's set up, like, could you have taken a different actor and put them in here and it have been the same formula?
Yeah, I think there are a few for sure. I mean, it's easy to say, yo, you can't have Die Hard without Bruce Willis. I mean, if you didn't know it existed, sure you could have it. We went through a couple names. To me, the most obvious choice for this time period would be Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
So I think it's same body type, same kind of cocky attitude, that I thought he could have done this movie and it would have been a smash hit along the lines of A Lethal Weapon.
I saw something that said Robert De Niro was almost cast. And like, late 80s Robert De Niro is somebody that I'm not familiar with. Like I always think about 90s. So it's like there's 70s De Niro and then there's like there's 90s and 2000 De Niro. Like I'm thinking about Heat and stuff like that. And obviously Goodfellas and things where he's playing more of like a mobster gangster kind of thing. But I think he could have done it. Like I think he could have.
I can't see it. I don't know. I don't see him as a run and gun type of guy. I don't know.
What about like, so we were looking at lists and we saw other actors. There was Richard Gere. I don't think he's tough enough.
Yeah, too dreamboaty in the eyes.
Kurt Russell was an interesting one too.
Kurt Russell could have done it. He could have done it.
But maybe he's like too tough because he's Snake Plissken. It's like, what about Harrison Ford? I think he's too smug.
Too smug. Harrison Ford would be the type to just leave the building.
Yeah,
and not say to everyone. He didn't care. Yeah,
I don't, because Harrison Ford, like he's a badass and he's great. He's Indiana Jones. He's Han Solo.
He is Air Force One.
He's too cool at that point. Yeah. And then when he was the president, he was too old. I don't know. I don't feel like he was the right fit. So I think you have. Talk maybe lightning striking. I think Bruce Willis was the perfect character here. And I think part of it was because you could see him losing, right? He didn't seem like, he's just going to tear people up. Like you put Schwarzenegger in this movie, it's unbelievable. You're not going to believe it. It's just not, it won't work.
Yeah, the 80s action stars of the big three of Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme definitely would not have worked in this type of movie.
You could say that Sudden Death was more kind of like this movie than it's Die Hard, and they even joke about it, right? Die Hard in an ice rink. Yeah. So by that point, it worked, but I feel like that's because Bruce Willis established this type of character, and I feel like Van Damme worked because of that. So what about? So we'll talk a little bit about John McClane as a character. He's obviously this New York tough-nosed police officer / detective, right? And he's going out to LA. He's visiting LA. Do you think that there's like a stigma of LA versus New York? It's the whole West Coast versus East Coast. Like we're East Coasters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that East Coasters look down on West Coasters.
You think so?
In like the toughness department. And it's unfounded, totally unfounded. Yeah. And I bet there is a rivalry, like an unspoken rivalry between like New York cops and LA cops.
It's weird because I feel like LA people probably turn their nose, and I have no basis for this.
No basis. It just it seems like a thing, right?
Yeah, because East Coasters, and maybe it's because it's cold here, it's dreary in the winter, and it's like I got no time for that.
Yeah, but we need something to fight about. So it's like when we're cold and we're miserable, it's like screw those sunshine assholes
outside on their beach surfing.
Yeah,
like Johnny Utah. Like, come on.
Yeah.
John McClane's going to put up nothing with Johnny Utah.
Yeah.
Like, no way. He's out there surfing.
It's like the classic inferiority complex where it's like, we're miserable here in the winter. It's like, oh, it must be nice, all that sunshine in LA. It's like it doesn't make any sense, but it seems like a thing. And then the LA cops are like, what are you talking about? We're just living here. What are you doing?
It's just as tough here, man. We got crime too.
Yeah, what's your problem?
Crime is crime, man. You gotta do some detective work. Yep. What kind of police officer do you think he is? Is he a good cop? Like in Die Hard 1, before pre-knowing what you know about the other ones.
Right. I guess, because he's probably one of those cops that's about to get divorced because of his job, because he cares too much about his job.
Gino Foligno situation?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think he's a loose cannon? Or do you think he plays by the book more? Because they didn't really give us a window into that.
I mean, without knowing 2 and 3, I think he's more loose cannon than played by the book, but this to me is like an extreme example of like he's fighting for his life in that tower, right?
Yeah, that's fair. And back to the New York versus California thing, like they had to really play it up. Like, how many comments did he make? Like, oh man, geez, California.
He's like a caveman who just doesn't understand other areas, right?
Like, there's no town that exists outside of New York.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
You can't get a good bagel here.
That's probably what it is.
What do you call this, pizza?
This is like cardboard.
Like, cardboard.
We're probably, hey, if you're from California and you can relate, you let us know, because I don't live out there, so I don't know about bagels. I know about Northeast bagels and pizza. That's all I know.
Look, we're from outside of Philly, so we hate both New York and California. So you both can go screw yourselves, all right?
That's true, right? Yeah, that's true. What about his wife? So let's talk about
his wife,
Ms. Gennaro, if you want to. I don't know. There's a lot of things to talk about in this space, and I think there's the relationship between them, and maybe I should have prefaced this by saying this. You said it before. Look, everybody's seen this movie by now. If you haven't, go watch it. Yeah, there's a lot of action and there's a lot of guns and stuff. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but I'm interested in the relationships. Yeah. I'm interested in what's going on with these people, man. Yeah. So
there's too much good action in this movie, and we can't possibly describe it. So yeah, we're acknowledging that the action happened and it's great, but we're really going to talk about the dumb stuff. So
yeah,
let's move on.
Let's talk about him and his wife and the relationship. So there's Ellis, which we could talk about, and that guy, right? We're going to talk about That Guy Hall of Fame. Maybe he's in there. He reminds me so much of Bill Paxton's character from True Lies, and maybe it's an homage.
Good call.
And then we'll talk about, maybe Bruce Willis and is he a good husband? So maybe let's start with that. Like, is he a bad husband? Is she a bad wife? Or are both things true? Or neither thing's true?
Yeah, I feel like they're both true. They both seem like stubborn people, right?
Mm-hmm. Set in their ways.
She got this job across the country. He loves his job at the NYPD, and as we stated prior, he's got no time for being an LA cop. So it's kind of like she started it, right? But how dare we stomp on her career aspirations, right? I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard one. So but she makes the decision to uproot the whole family.
Yeah, I mean, but how much money was she making? Like, I'm not saying that what he's doing is a bad job, because he's obviously a public servant. He's helping out New Yorkers by solving murders and crimes or whatever the heck he's doing in his job. At that point, he probably wasn't fighting terrorists in 1988. Like, he was doing whatever was going on in New York City or wherever he was.
Solving a murder here and there.
Which, look, there's obviously good to that, but she's making a life for the family here. Who knows? She seemed like second in command at the Nakatomi Corp, at least in the U.S. branch of it.
She's the breadwinner of the family, I'll tell you that much.
So,
and usually the breadwinner gets to decide where the family lives, don't they?
That's, ultimately it's a partnership and you got to make it work for both of them. But he didn't he just decided not to move out with the family? Like, hey, you guys go out there. I'm just not going to go.
But
like, what, how did that go down?
But there's no, he decided not to move. Like, she made the huge leap of accepting the job and taking the kids to live in LA. I'm sure they had many midnight arguments about it, but the fact that she went and did it, that's like the first declaration of war.
But if you leave the kids with him, he's not going to be home.
Obviously, he's not watching those kids. I know. Obviously, he is not.
That's what I mean.
He's got guns laying all over the house.
Yeah,
right?
This is like I'm thinking about the seedy part of New York in Last Action Hero, where the kid is in that apartment and there's like junkies and stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I'm thinking. Without Miss Gennaro, these kids are, I mean, they're in a better place, are they not?
Yep. I'm thinking of McNulty from The Wire.
Yeah.
Like that's who John McClane is about to become, a divorced father of two who's just not able to take care of his kid and can't possibly understand his wife.
I think that. Yeah, I agree with you.
But I'm not letting her off the hook either, because I don't know. Like I don't know how to say this. I don't want to sound sexist. And that's a horrible way to start the conversation. But
don't cancel us, please.
For her to just move, she moved. Like, I know you have to follow your career, but that's the first declaration of war. To do that, but not have like a proper separation, because their relationship is very complicated. They're not quite separated. They're just across the country while they figure things out. I mean, that's a hell of a move. That's like, if you move out there, you might as well say we're separated. I'm seeing other people. This Ellis guy is kind of kooky, kind of neat, kind of a scumbag, but he's different.
Hey, yeah. Well, do we know for sure that there was like, I'm going, and he didn't say, yeah, maybe I'll meet you out there or something? Like, he told the story to Argyle when they were in the limo, but it wasn't, I don't know.
Well,
and
it was a lame excuse of, I got cases that are 6 months piled up. I can't just leave them.
There's a lot of other cops. They can figure it out. What about LA, man? They need help too. You go out there. And I'll say this, right? Yeah. You can't just the transfer. It can happen. Yeah. You're a public servant. And I'm not saying that like his career isn't like the specialization of whatever Nakatomi is doing. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah. I don't think we know that.
But like, we could say the same for her though. Like, does she have to work for Takagi? Does she have to?
When they're going to give you the kind of money that Takagi's giving you, man.
For the private business, it's a sweet office and a private bathroom, but like, that's being a little greedy yourself. She can do business in New York.
Well, I mean, but maybe she wants the sunshine.
Maybe she wants this. Does she want the sunshine more than the husband? If the answer is yes, then maybe then let's get divorced.
Yeah. Well, hey, man. I mean, I also feel like we need to talk about her for a second, because she had an au pair / housekeeper. I'm assuming it was, right, because it was someone taking care of the kids while she's working. Yes. So she had enough money to do that. But like, did you find it at all demeaning that she made the lady call her husband Mr. McClane?
Yes.
Like, that probably wasn't the choice of that lady, because when someone calls you Mr. Badway, you say like, call me Kevin. Like,
call me Chrissy.
Call me
Chrissy.
Call me Chrissy. You know what I mean? Call me Chrissy. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like when she says, hey, did Mr. McClane call? Like, come on, man. That's rude. I'm sorry.
But like, she doesn't know Mr. McClane personally, so maybe she's just being properly. Yeah, you're right. I just feel like, hey, it's my husband. Like, what kind of relationship do you have with this lady? Like, Dr. McClane. Call him Detective McClane.
Yeah. Call him detective. Okay. I feel like that'd be better, because it's more of a job. Like, calling him Mr. McClane is even more demeaning, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's the Stone Cold Steve Austin bottom line. Here it is. They're both too stubborn to make this marriage work, right?
Yes. They don't belong together.
She won't give in on her job. He's not going to give in on his job. So the marriage is over. And the only thing that could save the marriage is a terrorist plot where lives are at stake, which is what happened here.
I mean, it proves that he cares about her, but let's be serious. Until the next terrorist plot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going back to status quo here.
Yeah. Look what happened. Look what happened before the terrorists showed up. They were in her office. They were like, oh, it's nice to see you. Oh, it's nice to see you too. Like, they were getting the feelings, right? Yep. And then it immediately turned into an argument.
That's what I mean.
If he would have just went through that Christmas party, had a nice time, and then gone home with her, they would have been fighting at midnight, right?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But didn't it say he says it at one point, I accidentally got invited to the party?
He said that, yeah. He was talking in code at that point because he didn't want to give away that his wife was there.
It's like, part of me wondered, like, was that actually, is there something to it too? Where like,
did he accidentally get invited to the party?
Yeah, like what if it actually was true and it wasn't?
Well, maybe, hold on now. Like this is part of the movie that maybe I never thought of. What if Mr. Tagagi invited him without
like the
knowledge,
family.
or not without knowledge, but like, oh, by the way, I invited your husband. I thought you wanted me to do that.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
That's very possible, but it's not clear.
I thought that was the truth because she still had him in pictures. She still, she changed her name. And that's the thing. We got to talk about this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to like spend the whole time talking about this, but there's one other thing that we need to talk about. So maybe we can come back to Ellis in a second, but this is a lead into Ellis, and Ellis is the scumbag Bill Paxton-esque type character. Why wasn't Bill Paxton in this, by the way? He should have been the guy. I mean, the guy did an okay job, but
too young at the time.
What did you think about her using her maiden name? But like, is that a violation? And there's a couple ways that we can look at this, because I could understand someone saying, I want people to take me seriously. I don't want people thinking like, oh, I'm a product of my partner, man or woman, whatever it is, right? Like whoever. Do you think there was an element of it like, I'm starting fresh, I want to be Ms. Gennaro now? Yeah,
because she hadn't been Ms. Gennaro in New York at her other jobs that as we know of, right? I believe her changing her name, or not changing, but like using Gennaro in California without his knowledge and without proper separation or legal separation, no divorce papers being filed. That's a big jab at,
it's like a dig,
at poor
right?
John.
Yeah.
At poor John, yeah. And like he felt it in the heart when he saw it.
Yeah, because I mean, they have movies where kids will then go by their mother's maiden name or their father's name instead of their mother's name and stuff like that, right? Or their other parent, or they'll switch their name out of like a disrespect because like I'm not part of this family.
Yeah. Her doing that is basically saying we're getting a divorce eventually, and that's shots fired on her part.
I agree with that. So it was sort of like the precursor to the divorce. Yeah. And I think Wikipedia says like, oh, his marriage is in a state of constant peril.
I think I've all clarity going forward. I think I'm on team John McClane here.
Yeah.
Because I think she moved the kids across country and took that job before the argument was finished or the conversation about it was finished. I think she pulled the trigger early on the move without it fully coming through. And when I say fully, I mean like this ends with divorce. Well, I'm going to take this job no matter what, as Charles Lee Ray would say.
No matter what.
It's no matter what. So, and if they're still in a holding pattern of like, I still don't agree with you, let's talk about it some more, she left. So
what about the whole Ellis thing? Like, he knows she's married, right? She got the pictures in her thing, and then she put the picture down. I mean, I think this is just a good example of good writing.
Yeah,
because good writing shows, okay, changing the name is a part of the plot point, but it also makes sense in the context of the story. Mm-hmm. Putting the picture down is a part of the plot point, but it makes sense in the context of the story. Like, how many movies do we watch on this show where it's like, oh, she just happens to use her last name. There was no point of it in the plot. Like, to expertly craft that, like, I need to recognize D'Souza and the partner on the screenplay, because it's just really well done.
It could be D'Souza, it could be Roderick Thorpe. No, I've never read Die Hard, the book, but maybe those types of details are in the original, so I don't know. But
there's another person that did it too. I agree with you. I think I'm on John McClane's side as well. What do you think about the whole idea of your wife getting hit on by coworkers? Now, I'm not trying to be like a territorial caveman here,
but some might call me. But that those scumbags are out there. They're predators. These people.
They are.
And Ellis is like a grade A #1 suspect for that type of thing.
He doesn't care. She's married.
He's comfortable enough to do coke on her desk. What else are they comfortable doing on that desk, Drew?
What's happened on that desk? Who knows? Yeah. Business deals and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that they were hooking up?
No. And she does not seem to be the type to go for that type of slime ball. But he's trying to wedge his way in there.
Absolutely. And the comfort level to do coke on your boss's desk, who is one below the CEO or whatever Tagagi was.
Not even the bathroom, the desk.
Like, he was doing that.
I was making some calls. Ugh.
I mean, I guess it's the 80s and people were doing coke, but
I
don't know. What about like, Maybe we could talk about
it's the 80s and people were doing some coke.
There's a little bit of coke, a little bit.
I just picture Mr. and Mrs. Rahali in the 80s just coked out of their minds because it was the 80s.
Absolutely not. It's the 80s. Everybody was doing coke. Just like, the 60s and 70s, everyone's smoking pot.
Yeah. Everyone was on psychedelics.
It's LSD and everything.
Now, Mr. O'Halley in the 60s, I mean, I'm sure he was high as a kite.
If you're listening to this, Dad. What about the Nakatomi Corporation in Plaza? So she took this job. Like, what do they even do? Is it just some like OCP conglomerate? Like they didn't say.
They do business, Drew.
They do business, all kinds of business deals.
Like, I don't know. Like, why does the safe have those like notes? Like, I don't even I'm dumb.
It was bonds, I think.
It was bonds. Okay.
I think it was like some type of bonds or financial, whatever. So they owned that, and that's what they were trying to rob, which we can talk about in the plan.
So, I mean, that's involved in their business somehow, some way. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. It's just blind corporation A. They do business. That's all.
You wish you knew more about them. Like, what if it was like Dynatox, where you knew they were dumping toxic waste?
Maybe people, have you read the book, people? Maybe the book gives a more intimate knowledge of the Nakatomi Plaza.
I think the thing about it too would be that would you feel more on John McClane's side if you knew she was going to work for some scum corporation, or if you knew that Tagaki was a bad guy? Would you maybe be on Hans Gruber's side?
Yeah, you'd feel less. You'd feel
it's a
less,
Robin Hood situation.
Yeah, sure. So I feel like they had to be on the up and up because if we're having Hans Gruber steal from a scumbag, then there's less stakes, right?
I agree with that. What about The Office? So The Office was like, how would you rate it in terms of 80s offices? Like OCP, think about RoboCop.
Yeah.
We just watched those.
Yeah, I mean, it's very swanky, very swanky. I mean, we know he's putting money back into that plaza, baby. He's not afraid to spend it.
That's the return to work. All those remote workers, man, they better get back to work. We spent all this money on this office, so
yeah. I think it would have aged well. I mean, you can do some upkeep to make it look more, 2000s. Like I say, the office existed in 2002. But yeah, what I want to talk about is the dynamic of the Christmas work party, right?
Absolutely.
Have you been a part of these?
Not like
big
that.
Blowouts. I've never witnessed or been a part of this type of office Christmas party before.
I've been to corporate
and it's a thing.
ones.
It's a thing in movies and TV shows.
Yeah. But Just Friends, they had a big one there. Like this one. I've been to some, right? But nothing like that. Like when I was coming out of college into work, it was like right before the financial crisis of whatever. I graduated in 2007, right? So it's like, it feels ancient to say that right now, but when you hear that, it's like right before everything tanked. So they kind of stopped a lot of that. Now we had people that would sort of pay for parties, but it wasn't anything like that. And I know in the 90s they did a lot of that. Yeah,
and like there's no alcohol at any of the workplace Christmas parties that I've been to.
I were a couple where he gave us 2 tickets. But I know some people that have been to some of that.
But I've never had like alcohol on premises. You have?
We have, yeah. But it wasn't at the office. It was off site.
Yeah. I would go to a bar or something. Yes. But like never like just a bash with alcohol in the office.
No, that's like smoking in an airport right now. Yes. Like it just makes you feel like when you see John McClane lighting up in the airport, he's waiting for his bag and he just whips out the cigarettes. It's like, what? You can smoke there? Like you're allowed?
Maybe that's why Holly wanted to move cross country. Maybe he whips out cigarettes at the breakfast table.
I just feel like you're talking about like the work party, and then the audacity at which people were like, should I even say the word? They were making love on the desk in one of the offices.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of shenanigans going on at this party.
Well, as you say, it's the 80s. They're all coked out of their minds, apparently.
Having sex.
Yeah, and B, the alcohol's flowing, and that's the negative to having the alcohol in the office, because that leads to people looking for side doors and side offices to do something real quick.
Just like, I know the idea of hooking up with your coworker, like, but you don't want that. Like, at the end of the day.
It happens. It happens. Especially the larger the company, the more likely it is. And like, are you fired if you get caught?
It's
at
the 80s,
Christmas party,
man.
Banging at the Christmas party?
I don't think at the 80s they're like, hey, you know what? Probably don't do that again. That's probably a bad idea.
It's like George Costanza in the Seinfeld episode. Should I have not done that?
Yeah.
Because he has sex with the cleaning lady after hours. Should I have not done that?
I mean, it is, you talk about sexual harassment. Like, I mean, you're part of a larger company, right? You got to take training on that stuff. It's first off, it's inappropriate in general. Yeah. You shouldn't need a training to know that that's inappropriate. I mean, that's just like ridiculous. And I worked at a different company before. And I remember in my last company, we had to do this training. And the training was like, you don't want to laugh at the training because it's obviously a very serious thing. But it was so ridiculous. No. Like the acting, it was like Ellis coming in doing stuff from a movie. It was so outrageous and cartoony.
And I understand the seriousness of these topics, but I can't help but laugh at some of the corporate videos I have to watch to this day
because they're ridiculous
with the bad acting and the ridiculous scenarios. And I know sexual harassment is a very serious thing, and I would never do anything like that. But like, the videos, come on. Like, I look forward to them. It's entertainment to me.
They're because it's like a bad movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need the videos for examples.
But those aren't for you and me.
That's true.
Those
they're
videos
for guys
are
like
for
Ellis.
the people that honestly have no idea that they're being inappropriate.
It's like Ellis and Simon from True Lies. Like, wait, I can't say that? Like, ask like a 10-year-old boy?
I can't joke about that. What are you joking?
That's crazy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know. It's obvious to us, but I agree with you. Like, I think maybe they could get in trouble. So, let's talk about the movie. We're gonna get back to the movie, I guess. But the War Christmas Party, I think we could both say that we've never been a part of anything like that. But we're gonna maybe gloss over some of this stuff, but we gotta talk about when the movie and the shit goes down, for lack of a better word. What did you think about John McClane and how he handled himself? Now, we don't have to go through all of the plot points and everything that he did, but there's maybe some different things that we could touch on. How do you think he handled himself in the scenario? You know, not having shoes, being half dressed. Like, what? Did you think he did a good job?
I mean, that's the most impressive thing is to do all this without shoes on. I mean, that's clearly first and foremost. But yeah, I loved his style. You know, the cockiness, him being on the radio with both the cop and the bad guy. Do you think the cockiness, like, is that a tactic to weaken Hans Gruber? Right? Do you think Hans was like not affected by?
What did they say about like
this
poking the
New York
bear?
scumbag? Yeah,
like I think he's European. He doesn't care about Americans in general. He thinks we're all idiots, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then on top of that, New York maybe is like the most stereotypical American besides Texas, I think.
Yeah, Texas is probably one. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you got like the Cowboys from Texas, you got the Yankees from New York, and then you got maybe like the California surfer dudes. Like I don't know. Is that what Europeans think of us? You guys let us know. The Last Word Podcast at gmail.com.
Those might be 3 spot-on categories.
Yankee Doodle from New York up here. Yeah, this guy, he doesn't care about anything. I think, you're right. Like, he's poking the bear, and maybe that's a bad technique.
But like, for him to be like I know he's a New York detective, right? So it's like he does crime scenes, maybe a chase or two, right?
Sure.
To get a guy that's on the scene of the crime. But he had extensive weapons knowledge, didn't he?
He did.
The weapons he was picking up from the bad guys. It was like a video game where you kill a guy and you pick up the weapons and get the ammo,
you know how to reload it. Like,
very much a video
exactly
game.
What to do.
Yeah, and his use of C4. Like, he knew it. He just knew it. I don't think that's a class at Batman school, right?
You learn that?
Do you learn how to set off C4?
Yeah,
at criminal justice class.
I mean, he had. We'll talk about this in a second, but he had different handguns, machine guns, like you said, C4, different flashbangs and stuff. Yeah. Like, he knew exactly how to handle himself, and he was doing this without even like skipping a beat. Like, he was switching out ammo. He knew exactly what to do. Like, maybe he had a background in the military or something.
No, but I love the variety, and I loved his moves. Him shimmying out of. I mean, we're getting close to dangerous territory of remember this, remember that. But yeah, I mean, I thought that it was grade A. But my question to you is, you know, watching him walk on that glass just made me cringe because it pains. I hate when people are messing up their feet. Like, it makes me upset. Like, and I empathize.
You need shoes on.
Yeah. So, like, what are the worst things in the world that you could walk barefoot on? We know glass is definitely one of them because obviously case in point. But like, what are some of the worst things?
Do you want worse things, like real things, or like things that I might walk on in my house?
Obviously you're not going to be in a shootout at the tower anytime soon.
I'm not. I'll give you the worst one. Yeah. I think, and maybe this is me being a baby, but Legos. Yeah. Like,
everyone's
you
going to say
the
Legos.
Lego?
Oh yeah, people are going to say the Legos. It's a thing for sure. Mine, and this has happened to me fairly recently. Last time I was at the beach, is you ever walk on the sand? You don't respect the sand,
hot.
So you're walking to the beach from your like vacation beach house.
You're burning your feet,
and you don't have your sandals on. You don't have your shoes on, and you roll up on the beach and you think it's fine. You take one step, and then you start walking faster, thinking, oh, I'll just get to my destination quickly and this will be over. But then you just collapse. You
know
just
what that
can't
is?
go any further.
It's like
your
when
feet are so hot.
I'm going to give like an analogy that doesn't make any sense, but hopefully it makes sense to you because I know you get me. It's like when you use the turbo in like NBA Jam and you use up the whole bar and you're still trying to turbo, but it's only going back a little bit.
Yeah, it's like little. Yeah.
Like that's you running on hot sand. Like you think that
every time you lift your foot, it's like a millisecond of relief.
You're using more of the turbo to the point where the bar is not going back up. You can't levitate over the sand and fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're just out of gas the whole time and you're done. Like that's what I think about.
That shit kills.
It does. It hurts so bad.
Because you don't respect the sand. That sun's been beating on it all day.
It is. And you go at like lunchtime. Oh, forget it, man.
Forget it.
It's
noon.
over.
Forget about high noon.
You're going to have like a peel of your skin is going to fly off there. And what about like, I don't know if this is bad, but I think about Home Alone and we watched that and like Marv in like tar. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know when the last time you walked.
You were thinking tar. I was thinking him stepping on those Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, that's glass, right?
Oh my God.
Is that glass worse than the glass of The Office? Because it's like hollowed out like glass. It's probably not
better. I feel like it's more like a powdered glass. It's more on par with like movie glass Christmas ornaments. I feel.
Have you ever stepped? I have stepped on glass, by the way. Have you?
Yeah, dude. I've dropped 2 glasses in my kitchen in the past year, and to this day, I'll find a shard somewhere, like a little tiny crystal, right? Where it's like if you step on it, like it'll be like, fuck, what is that?
Yeah, it kills you. It hurts so bad. He had like auto glass, like it was like chunks of
that's like you could slice your jugular type of glass.
I mean, good on Hans Gruber to be smart enough to shoot that out. And I don't know. I would say that another bad one. And maybe this is barefoot, but you ever step in dog shit?
Oh yeah.
Like you want to step in that with your bare foot?
But I don't I feel like I'd rather step in the poo than the pee. Like
you would?
The piss to me is disgusting.
I think I'd rather walk on Legos.
I know the poo is more biologically dangerous to you, I guess. I don't know, from a cleanliness standpoint.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't want to step in a puddle of pee. That's just disgusting.
Yeah, because pee's like, so maybe this is gross to talk about, but pee's probably colder. Like,
yeah.
Because it's
if it's been left, yeah.
Yeah. But if you slip, I don't know. I don't want to step in either, man.
But if you're in a house and a dog has an accident and you're walking minding your own business and all of a sudden you step in a puddle of piss,
you might slip.
That's just throw me out. Like just put me in the garbage because I it's not worth washing.
You know what?
Right?
I'm going to say something controversial. I'd rather step in dog pee barefoot than with a sock on. Because
now we're talking. Now, yep, I see it.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
Now let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, and go with me on this.
Yeah.
Because people are like, "What the hell am I listening to?" I came to listen to Die Hard, and now I'm talking about stepping in pee with a.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Last Row Podcast.
Give us a vote for us in the podcast awards.
Yeah.
This is why we'll never be in it.
Yeah.
But just go with me on this for a second. The sock gets soaked in the pee, and then you have a cold sock. You don't want a wet sock to begin with.
No.
So you have a wet sock with pee? Come on now.
Exactly. Like you walk, you shovel snow, right? And let's say your pant leg is dragging and it gets wet.
Yes.
You come in from the house, you take your shoes off, your first step, the pant leg is like underneath maybe, and then you get your sock wet. It's
I hate
over.
that feeling.
That's like the worst millisecond of my life. Just kill me now because my sock is wet. It's the worst.
Give me shattered glass in an office with my bare feet.
Yeah.
Versus
give me hot coals. Give me thumbtacks. Give me the hot sand. Don't give me wet foot.
I'm sorry to all the listeners that had to bear. See, we have to talk about it. We have to.
What's the worst part of John McClane walking through glass and cutting his feet up? It's not the cuts. He's walking on that wet blood. It's gross.
In the wet blood. And then he's like sitting in the sink. It's that man. And then he's tied paper towels around his feet.
People injuring their feet and their fingers to me, I'm very squeamish towards.
Man, dude.
You could tear a guy's heart out and I'd be like, that's fine.
I mean, yeah, that's how I feel. We were just talking about Indiana Jones at the Temple of Doom. The guy Kali Ma's his heart out. I don't even doesn't
faze me. But if you mess with someone's fingernails or fingers or toes, then I'm out.
How about, I mean, this movie's kind of gruesome in some ways too. Remember when the guy got shot from underneath the table? I hate to say remember this, but they showed a lot of that. Or when Tagaki got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, the blood splatter.
blood
that
splatter,
wasn't.
yeah.
I want to ask you another question before we move on from this topic, because we got to talk about the weapons and gunfire, and it's sort of you mentioned C4 earlier. Was it just me, or are you worried that the building's going to collapse if you drop that amount of C4 down an elevator shaft to the point where it blows out like whatever floor that was? Because I'm thinking about Jenga, right? Like you played Jenga before.
Sure.
You pull out the wrong thing, that whole thing is collapsing.
Yeah. I mean,
did that cross your mind too?
Maybe it depends on where exactly the explosion hits, but to me, it's just like pulling the tablecloth out.
Peter Venkman?
Yeah, the flowers are still standing, Drew.
You're Peter Venkman did?
Yeah. Yeah.
He did such a good job at the C4 that the building was still standing.
Yeah. It's like, floor 4 is intact, floor 6 is intact. You blow out 5, and then 6 just slams down on 4, and we're cool. We're fine.
It's like he jumped before the elevator landed, so he didn't die. It's cool.
Fine.
It's good.
It's all good.
I was thinking about the building collapsing, and that was a hell of an explosion, in my opinion. But what about the weapons and gunfire? So I have to give you credit. Like we talked a little bit about maybe firing guns off the roof and the cops are just driving around like a bunch of yokels that had no idea what's going on. Maybe that's why he's pissed about LA cops, because maybe they're not hearing the gunfire on the roof.
Yeah,
like
they don't pay
attention.
They don't pay attention.
They're driving around with Twinkies.
Yeah.
What about the guns? Did anything stand out to you with this? Because there's a variety of weapons.
So I went on, and this is a very informative website, internetmoviefirearmsdatabase.org, Drew.
The IMFDB?
You could search a movie and it tells you what guns were used by which people in the movie. Because I was very curious, like, what are these submachine guns that they're using? So we know that John McClane has a Beretta 92. That's his personal pistol, right?
Yeah.
And we also know
cop gun.
We also know that Hans Gruber used the Heckler & Koch P7 M13 as his handgun with silencer. And we also know that Carl Winslow at the end of the movie, that's a Smith & Wesson. Other handguns include the Walter P5. Everybody knows P5. Right?
Isn't that in GoldenEye? Walter?
Yeah. The Walter P5 it's a very small, very portable handgun. That's some of the bad guys, the Germans, use that. But the machine gun I was looking for was the Heckler & Koch HK94. That is your standard issue submachine gun. They used the heck out of it. It's the MP5. It's basically an MP5, and it's considered. They call it the Rolls Royce of machine guns.
Who doesn't want that?
According to IMFDB.com.
That does look like a standard goon, 80s goon machine gun. Like you're doing infiltrating, you get that gun.
And it's got that, like, it's like the stock attachment to where it's like you can rest it on your shoulder
it's like a bar.
For steady aiming. Yeah, for steady aiming. Right. With the extended mag. There was no red dot sight.
You only can have 2 on at a time.
Yeah, you can only have 2 on at a time, as Call of Duty has taught us.
You got the perk limit.
Yeah.
You can't have the stock and the red dot. You got to pick one. Extended mag? I don't know.
Yeah. So the SWAT team were using M16s. Carl, I would call the main henchman.
Yeah. The blonde guy?
With whose brother died, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had the Steyr AUG, the AUG, which is, this gun was also in Call of Duty, by the way. So you would know it if you saw it.
It's got that scope on it, right?
It has a little bit of a scope. Yeah, it doesn't have the extended mag. It's got a long muzzle. Very classy looking.
If you're using that gun, I felt like he was shooting that from the hip. Like he was firing, not even from the hip. He was just like had his arm out shooting it. Like, what's the point, man? Mm-hmm. Don't you want to use the scope? You'd be more accurate.
Yeah. And that's the gun where he pointed it at John McClane's jaw, and then they had the fist fight.
Yeah.
And then at the end, where he inexplicably was still alive, and he was like, rah! At the end of the movie.
To be honest, I forgot about that part. And when he came back, I was like, man, are you kidding me? That was too funny. I love that.
How did he get out there? He still had the gun.
That was too funny.
That's bad police work, man, when they went in there and swept the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't that guy look like a poor man's Dolph Lundgren? Like, Dolph was too famous to be in that, but he looked like a poor man's Dolph Lundgren. A lot of these guys did, actually.
Yeah. And then there was a couple one-off guns. Like, there's a ton of stuff here. The sniper rifle, the Strayer SSG. You had the M60 E3 and the regular M60 machine guns.
That's my favorite in Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. I love that.
Mm-hmm. The M60 is what turned Carl Winslow's cruiser into Swiss cheese, as he says. Also a big fan of the hockey puck flashbang.
Dude, because it slides. You got to use that.
Yeah. Love the hockey puck flashbang. You had the custom rocket launcher. So many weapons. I was glad that this existed because I had a question. I searched in Google, weapons in Die Hard. and this is what they gave me, and that was every weapon in Die Hard.
Man, I love the IMFDB here. It's we got to bust this out more.
We're gonna have to incorporate this more.
I missed the Golden Closet. I don't know if we did that in a while. Maybe they had some of these things for sale, but we need to get the IMFDB back in here.
You know what I want? I want to buy John McClane's filthy tank top.
Yeah, the tank top. Yeah. Oh man,
it went from clean to dirty to filthy in like 20 minutes flat.
That's why I don't buy white shirts, man. Like, even like they sell white hoodies and stuff. You can't get that. You wear that. You need to basically throw it away when you're done with it. It's instantly going to get dirty.
And he eventually took it off. But like, at what point is it not a shirt anymore? You should just take it off. Like, it's not protecting anything. It's like, why was he wearing it? It was just like covered in crud.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when wrestlers chop up the t-shirt to the point where it's like a smock.
Yeah. Yes.
Where it's like they cut all the sleeves off and it's just the front and the back. The only reason why they're wearing that is so that you buy the shirt.
Yeah, you see they're buying the shirt. They wear the shirt, you can buy the shirt. Yeah.
But I think you're right. And I saw something, I think it was trivia where they said that John McClane, they had like 15 versions of that tank top in varying degrees of disarray just because it was like you needed all the shades of dirt.
Yeah, and you needed like to have the continuity, so...
I know we got to talk about the police and the FBI ineptitude here because it's obviously a key plot point, but did it bother you when he tried to use the emergency radio and like he pulled the fire alarm and they're like, there's no fire.
Like, why did they believe him?
and then this is a reserve channel. Like I wanted to jump through the movie and like punch that worker in the face.
Yeah.
Because it's your job as an emergency responder to assume that it's emergency until you prove that it's not. It's like innocent until proven guilty. It's like, hey, this building might be blowing up here unless it's not blowing up. Like they did not believe him.
I think they should be fired after everything that happened.
They need an investigation, man.
And this is maybe one other reason why John McClane doesn't want to be an LA cop.
They don't take it seriously. She's ready to go surfing.
He's not going to get dispatched the proper calls. If they're just like going to just sit there and watch TV all night and just disregard every call that comes into the emergency broadcast.
Speaking of watching TV, did you like that the main henchman that was pretending to be the lobby guard was like watching football game? He's like, I got 50
bucks on these guys.
We'll come back to the henchman in a second. But I thought just overall, and even the FBI, right? Then you get the dude Max Keller showing up from Raw Deal. Let's talk about that, guys, and maybe we could talk about it here. But that FBI ineptitude was bad. But you can't talk about Die Hard and not talk about Carl Winslow. Like I hope everybody knows who we're talking about here.
Yeah, Reginald Vell Johnson is his real name, Drew, but we all know him as Carl Winslow, all-time TV dad. And no, it was a great role. I think he's very synonymous with the movie. It's not just John McClane. People also definitely think of Carl. I feel like people think of Carl Winslow more than they think of Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman.
I agree with that.
As the second name in Die Hard, even though obviously Alan Rickman has a bigger role. When I see Die Hard in my mind, I see Bruce Willis and I see Carl Winslow.
He might actually have more screen time. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's possible.
Maybe.
Did you think that the relationship made the movie? Like I think it did.
It personally. Did. No, I think it definitely gave it more. Give it more feels, gave it a more human element, more than just senseless violence or anything like that.
What about, maybe, I don't know, we should just call this section That Guy Appreciation because, and this is 2024, so we didn't do the awards yet for 2023, but these guys are already in the That Guy consideration for 2024.
Yeah.
You got the principal from Breakfast Club. Like,
your ass is mine.
Like, that's another one.
You want another?
That's another. He's a deputy chief, and like they played him as this hard ass. And the second the FBI shows up, he's a complete dumbass, and he doesn't know anything.
A kiss ass and a dumbass.
He's like, "Oh, I'm the guy in charge of here." Not anymore.
Not anymore, pal.
I saw that. I think it was. I don't know if it was Ebert or Siskel. They gave this movie a bad review right away because of him specifically. They didn't. Wow. They thought that he didn't need him, but I thought he was funny. And then Argyle, the limo driver, underappreciated. I actually wish he was in a little more.
Yeah, I wish there was more to it. Yeah.
What's limo etiquette? So if you're John McClane, I mean, they obviously paint him as this guy that's never been in. I mean, he says, "I've never ridden in a limousine," so he sits up front. If you're a limo driver, is that like...
I don't know why that was so funny to me. It's obviously, it was played for laughs, but I don't know what to do. Let's sit in front. Because he's not... He doesn't want to be special treated. He's not a fancy guy. He's not going to fancy dinners, He's a burger and fries kind of guy, and he's a ride up front kind of guy. But even if you're riding a taxi, you're riding in the back.
It's like it's more comical though because it's a limo and it's so long.
All the amenities are back there, and he's just whatever, man.
He's sitting in the front. Like I always wonder, is there even a front passenger seat in a limo? You know, when you think about it, like they should take it out.
And it's just a more reason why he's an asshole is because like he could smoke back there and put the shade up and then not bother Argyle, but poor Argyle has to sit there while he's smoking next to him.
It was the 80s, you know, people smoked in your car.
People were smoking, they were doing blow, they were doing all that.
It's a huge. So if you're a limo driver, and Argyle, he said it's his first day on the job, but if you're like an experienced limo driver, are you like, get the F in the back, guy? Like,
no,
you know, is that a violation?
Argyle was supposed to open the back door for him to lead him into the back.
That's true.
He probably never did that.
Yeah.
I forget if they showed him entering the car or not. I don't
like even an Uber, like you take an Uber or a Lyft or whatever. It's 2023, whatever other company exists these days. You don't sit in the front. Like I mean, even when you do with a bunch of friends, you gotta. But that's the last seat filled.
No, yeah. If I was an Uber driver and a solo person, opened the front door, I'd be like, no, get in the back. Conversely, if I were driving friends, I'm not going anywhere. If there's no one in the front seat, I'm not your chauffeur.
Larry David, remember? It was a Ben Stiller thing with Larry David?
Yeah, Ben Stiller thing. Larry David's like, what's the big deal? It's just 2 blocks. No, it's a principal thing.
You sit in the front, man. You don't sit in the back.
Yeah, I'm not your chauffeur. Get out of here.
What
Unless
about
you're
Ellis?
paying me. Yeah.
What about Ellis? We talked about him as an homage.
I think you called it. It's a great homage. It's not an homage since he was
Bill
first.
Paxton was an
homage to Ellis. But yeah, I mean, he was cocky until he wasn't, right? He was cocky until shit got real.
The best example of that is he's like, come on, John, come on. And he's drinking a Coke.
He's
like you got the
Bubba.
henchman pouring the Coke for him. And the second he knows it's game over for him, he starts like nervously drinking the Coke.
Yeah.
Like,
no, he deserved what he got because he could have just kept his damn mouth shut and stayed in the crowd. But he decided to try to be a hero and befriend the guy and get him what he wants, which would ultimately be like having John McClane found and killed.
So question for you. Do you think it was a flex to Ms. Gennaro of, your husband's out here gallivanting around.
Yeah, he's messing this up. I'm going to fix this. He's making it bad for us.
I'm going to fix this. And then you'll see what a real man does.
Yep.
And what I thought, and maybe that's why he didn't give her away, because that was a good plot point. Like, I think if you're watching this the first time, which they made it to believe, hey, he's going to give her up. Mm-hmm. You know, I know in other movies that the guys give him up, but I think he wanted to be with her still. It certainly seemed like it. When he died, like, did you feel bad at all?
No.
I mean, I don't want anyone to die.
You walk into the lion's den, you're going to get mauled, man.
Yeah.
You dive into the middle of the ocean, the shark's going to get you.
he got gribbered.
Yeah.
What about Walter Peck, who I would say scumbag of the year?
Is this guy just perfect at this kind of role or what?
For all that don't know, Walter Peck is the guy from Ghostbusters who is the TV reporter in this movie. So I'm going to call him Walter Peck because everyone knows him as Walter Peck.
Yeah. William Atherton is the name. And I don't know if he's a bigger scumbag or not in this or in Ghostbusters. On the one hand, he released all the ghosts because he's up their ass about environmental issues, right? But on the other hand, he went into a home of a hostage where secrecy was at the utmost importance and interviewed their 6-year-old daughter. Get away from my daughter, you scumbag, right?
Completely. It was complete scum, and you got the impression that when they were setting up his character, it was as if he was a good reporter and he wanted to report out on this story, and the people in the newsroom were annoyed by him and whatever. But then you start, I think it was a bait and switch, because when they set him up, it's you think that he's trying to report on the situation. Yeah. You didn't think that he was going to be a jerk like that, and he threatens to call the INS on the poor lady that was taking care of the kids. Yeah. I mean, it was complete scumbag. Mm-hmm. I would say this is worse than letting the ghosts out into Manhattan.
Yeah, it's worse. But I mean, the ghost, that was pretty bad too.
I mean, it's kind of end of days thing.
And he thought he was so much smarter than the Ghostbusters. And
That's true.
Oh, I just hate
you shut that down.
Yeah.
Do not shut that down.
And he comes back in Die Hard 2, and he's good. He's good in Die Hard 2 also.
What about FBI guy, Max Keller?
Yeah. I mean, this is a lesser thing, but I thought he did a good role of FBI agent who thought he knew what he was doing, but really he was just like, he was inept as all hell. And I love how the movie made you believe that he was in on it, that he was part of the terrorist group, but really he was just a meathead, FBI agent.
Good writing, man. I mean, this is just a really well written movie. Like, it Good deserves the scores that it has.
They gave him the music and the zoom in, making you think that he was more important than he actually was. It was good swerve. I
don't mean to disrespect Alan Rickman, because I feel like he's obviously, R.I.P. and an incredible actor.
Are you about to trash Alan Rickman right now?
No, but what I was going to say is, you could argue that he's actually, and you did argue prior to the show, right, that he could be one of the most famous that guys, right?
Yeah. Even though he is a very capable lead actor, you could consider him a that guy just because he's in so many things, and he's a very memorable face and voice. He's got Alan Rickman's voice. That's probably bad, but yeah, I agree, and I thought he was great in this movie, and he might score high. What do you think?
I know everyone's going to remember him from Harry Potter and this movie, but I think about him as the dude in Love Actually, when he's, he's like almost cheating on his wife. That's what I think about. But actually, most underrated role, Galaxy Quest. Love that movie. So good in that movie.
Oh yeah, he was great in that. I love him as the angel in Dogma.
That's great too. Yeah. No, I think we got to put him through the scale here. You can't talk about this movie and not talk about probably one of the most iconic villains of all time, Hans Gruber. So if you're new to the show, we have a patented Last Row podcast villain scale where we can objectively rate these villains, and we'll see how he scores. There's 4 major categories. There's look or style, hideout or lair, plan, and henchman. Now I got to give Mike, listener and friend of the show, a shout out. He's talked about an adversary scale before. I don't know if it fits in here, but let's go through these scales. We might have to reevaluate this in the future, but I shout out to Mike because he's written in and talked to us a little bit about that. Start with look or style, Badway. What do you think about his setup?
It's hard because he's not overly flashy, but I like what's going on, right? Love the beard. I love the haircut for the time. He's got a great looking suit. He's got a very stylish pistol, and he doesn't stand out, so it's like he's not getting a 5. Well, you could talk me into 3 going on 4, just for the classiness of it all.
I mean, we talked about accessories, so a lot of times we do talk about accessories. I mean, he brought an assortment of weapons here.
Sure.
So you could argue that's part of his plan, but I would say he brought C4.
You're giving him credit for all of the weapons?
Yeah, I am, because I think he's the mastermind behind it. They had freaking missile launchers that they shot at tanks. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had... this category has sort of evolved over the years where we've talked about, okay, is it a ponytail? Is it his accessories?
It's definitely part of it.
Like, maybe Arsenal is part of this because, I mean, it's a visual thing, but it's also tools of the trade. And I think you could put that maybe in henchman too.
But he doesn't personally use most of the stuff.
True.
He has a personalized weapon.
That's true.
But so I don't know if that is look style.
Maybe it goes under henchman. Maybe it goes under henchman.
Yeah, it could elevate the henchman.
His gun... The one that you said was it the Walther? He didn't have the PPK. I forgot what it was, but one of the HKs. Mm. Either way, I liked it. I think that's a 3 because I think he had a nice suit. He had an Italian suit, and I thought it was really good. But tied into that, you know how John McClane was calling out the different suits and things of the actors when he was pretending that Gruber was pretending that he was American.
Yes.
I was surprised that he didn't notice the suit because he noticed all the other guys' suits. And maybe he knew as he was going, but I actually think that he did a hell of an American accent and please don't kill me.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Yes.
Like that plays into it.
Did you buy his accent?
I thought it was good acting. I gotta admit it because it made sense where he's like this random dude in the thing.
It was slipping through too. So I think McClane caught it real quick.
He did.
Maybe not right away, but very quickly. Yeah.
I think a 3 because I think all of those things added up. I think you nailed it with the 3. I don't think we can go 4 or 5. I just don't think there's enough there. But I think it's a 3 in my opinion, unless you would knock it down.
I'll go with 3. I'm not going to fight you for 4. So
okay, let's go with the 3. All right. So now hideout or lair. This is a tricky one. What do you think? Because I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the four category system is a fail safe to like not have people just score 20s so easily.
That's true.
Right? Everyone's got a weak spot for the most part, unless the tippy top of the tippy top. So hideout lair is going to be that because we can't just call Holly Gennaro's office his hideout lair. That's not his.
He made it.
He commandeered it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He annexed
he annexed it, but we can't just say it's his. He's
He's
borrowing
Jason rolling into Manhattan here.
Yeah,
he took it.
Yeah, he took it.
But he blew it up too. So that's the other thing.
He also blew it up, yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like it's got to be a 1 because there's nothing to speak of. There's nothing to speak of, unfortunately. It's not his fault. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's hard to argue this because he doesn't really have one.
Yeah.
And it's the accessories and stuff. We'll talk about that maybe in the other categories. It's got to be a 1.
If there was a 1-minute scene in the first 5 minutes of the movie where it shows him in a warehouse arming up, that's something we can use. But we can't. It's not there. We can't use it.
I mean, the Nakatomi Plaza is a sweet building, but it's not his. So you can't say that it's his. He stood up it and he blew it up.
We can't call the truck that they rolled in on. Like that's not.
I'll say this. If he didn't plan on blowing it up and he planned on like staking this place out, like the dude from freaking Raw Deal we were just talking about, they got that office suite. All right, I'll give it to him. But you're right. It's a 1. All right, now, plan. This is a really interesting one.
Yes.
Break this down, please.
I mean, I guess the plan is to steal the notes and everything else associated with that bunker or whatever, bunker safe on the ground floor, right? And then bring the hostages to the roof where he's claiming to the cops that he wants to be transported. Meanwhile, having the roof wired with enough explosives to possibly blow the building down, right?
Mm-hmm.
They blow that up. Everyone dies. Everyone thinks that even the terrorists are dead. While they sneak out the back door on the underground in an ambulance or something, right? Did I get the gist of it?
You did. And he said, I think at one point, like the best way for them to not find you is to think you're dead.
Yeah. So,
which is interesting.
Yeah, it's great. And his plan involved, I know the cops got alerted earlier than he wanted, but his plan did involve the cops getting alerted to the point where the FBI intervenes and he knew the FBI was going to cut the power to the building.
They had a playbook.
Which opened up the safe. It was all part of the plan. So he planned on getting caught and dealing with the cops and eventually having them think he's dead. I think it's a brilliant plan. And I think it could have worked on a better day without John McClane in the building. Fortunately, John McClane was there. And then we are where we are. But I think it's a 5 plan.
I'm not even going to argue you on this because it definitely is a 5. Because it's elaborate, but he was so smart. He knew everything that was going to happen. The only thing that made it not work was John McClane. Yeah. Without John McClane there, it would have absolutely worked. The
only flaw in his plan was when he went to look for the explosives himself, he knew how dangerous John McClane was. And he set his gun down to go look for the explosives for a second. And that's when John McClane found him. And then he acted like he was, a hostage or whatever. You're not, don't put your gun down when you got a maniac cop running around the building. And B, you should be armed with more than just one gun, right?
I would agree.
He should have been ready with a second pistol.
Gotta have it in his ankle,
in his ankle or something. Yeah.
Or have like at least one of those hockey puck flashbangs or something.
That just proves to you that maybe he's all plan and he's not a fighter.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like going out naked. Like he went without his gun as being naked in that scenario. And I think you're right. Like, but I think that the way that he outsmarted everybody, he knew that these cops were going to do whatever they were doing. Like he had it play by play. Like at one point they referenced the FBI playbook. He was really smart and I got to give him that. And it was a genius plan. I think the biggest thing about it was, he had tricked everybody. So I'm definitely down with a 5. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now, henchmen, man, this is.
It's got a lot of henchmen.
This is so good.
A lot of henchmen, a lot of them useless, but they're there.
But they're sweet though. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Well, who was your favorite one?
I mean, I loved long haired boy. I think his name is Carl.
Yeah.
Whose brother died, was the first one to die. And by the way, the brother who died first, he was not a very good henchman.
No. He was clearly the first one to die.
He didn't know what to do.
Do you think he got into it?
His brother, like he was a tech guy and his brother like just cut the wires for him. It was like he did not belong there. And I felt bad for him, honestly.
Do you think he got into the business because his brother was in it? It's like, all right, well, I guess I gotta join that up.
I think he got drug along by his brother, and honestly, it's tragedy. It's tragedy, Drew.
My favorite henchman, Vigo the Carpathian.
Oh yeah, well, of course, Vigo, of course.
Did you remember that he was in this movie? Because I forgot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, Vigo the Carpathian.
I forgot that it was him.
And my second one, Al Leong, who was criminally underused.
That guy, he is that guy, Hall of Fame. He's in every action movie.
So good, man.
Yeah.
I know there's a meme out there that says when this guy shows up, the shit's about to go down. He is awesome.
Can I just for a second run down some movies for you?
Yeah, please.
Big Trouble in Little China. He was on the A-Team. Lethal Weapon.
Awesome.
Let's see. Action Jackson. Die Hard. He was in They Live. He was in Bill and Ted. He was Genghis Khan and Bill Ted.
I forgot about that. Oh my God, he's Genghis Khan.
He's in Death Warrant with Van Damme. Oh man, I'm just going down IMDb. If there's just too many to name. He's in Hot Shots Part 2. He's in Last Action Hero. He's in Beverly Hills Cop 3, Double Dragon, Deadly Target, Escape from L.A., Godzilla, Lethal Weapon 4. He's in everything. The Scorpion King.
Dude, he's good too. Like he's underused in this. I feel like they wasted him. Like he just got shot in the end, and that was it. Like he wasn't in it enough.
He's a more capable henchman. He could have had some time to shine, but he didn't.
There's a modern day Al Leong, and I'm probably saying that wrong, by the way. But in the Raid, there's a dude. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but it's Yayan Ruhian. Mm-hmm. He is Mad Dog in the Raid. And if you watch any of the Indonesian action movies, like he's in a lot of those movies and a lot of the like more modern action movies. He's like the new version of this guy. And he's in all these movies. When this guy shows up, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
But I mean, this to me, like the henchmen, now this is where we can debate it, right? You could debate the effectiveness of them. Mm-hmm. But I got to give them credit for the arsenal they brought.
Right. And
I mean,
remember, henchmen are inherently there to get shot by the good guy.
Right. They're not
supposed to be competent.
Right.
So I think we need to lean into the arsenal and also the face recognition of some of these guys, which this movie has.
Right.
So I'm willing to go 4, I think.
I want to go 4 too. Would you say Carl was a sub boss?
Yeah, Carl was a sub boss for sure.
He was a sub boss. He wasn't a henchman.
He's tougher than Hans Gruber. But Hans Gruber's the brains. That's
the flaw, like where you could argue that Gruber's plan fell apart because Carl wanted revenge for his brother versus locking him in the elevator shaft, like he said. You know, like this wouldn't have been a problem,
right?
But Carl was pretty badass. I mean, he could take care of these guys and the arsenal, like the stuff they brought with them. I mean, it was no joke. I think we got to go 4, and the hairstyles too.
Yeah, just not 5 because there was no iconic moment, I feel, with the henchmen. The final fight with McClane and Carl is great, and the hanging is very iconic. Is an iconic kill in an action movie. But I don't know. I don't think it rose to the level to give it a full blown 5.
So there's no category for this. And before I tally up the scores, I want to ask you this: like, Gruber dies ultimately, right? Like, do you think his death was a worthy death? And I have a point of why I think he could have done a better job.
Well, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
like it's an iconic death for sure.
It is.
Yeah, and I think it was earned. Something rubbed me the wrong way that it only took one gunshot to get him, but I guess it didn't kill him. It hit him.
It wounded him.
It knocked him back, right?
Yeah.
But he did try to take Holly with him, which I respect.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like they did him a little dirty, but you know, I've seen advent calendars with him falling down the building and stuff now because of the Christmas thing. But I'll say, and you know what I'm going to say. You know it already.
Clearly,
he had a gun in his hand.
He screwed up.
Why did he not pull a Kalitri and just
pull the
shoot
trigger?
Up?
At least try. You got to try. Like, right?
Maybe it's a legitimate question that we need to ask here.
Yeah.
Can you shoot up? Yeah. And can you shoot if you're falling?
How fast you're falling? And I know the bullet, the speed of the bullet is massive. But at what point does the bullet just kind of like stay?
It falls down with you.
Yeah.
But also, like, he's flailing his arms going, like, imagine if you, like, physically you can't bring your arm up to shoot because you're too busy falling.
Yeah. I feel like if we're talking realism, most cases in this scenario, I think you drop the gun because
You're
it's
not
the
gonna
shock of oh crap.
Yeah.
So like I feel like you lose your hand strength for that moment, right?
You're not going to shoot.
Yeah. As you're falling, like if you happen to have like a holster, like I think you can have the wherewithal to like reach into and then bang. Like I might as well get this shot off. Since he still had the gun in his hand, I think he could have squeezed one off.
I think he should have, and maybe it's more a testament to Raymond Calitri and how good he was in Gone in 60 Seconds to be able to shoot back up.
Calitri is a tougher guy than Hans Gruber, on a fight by fight, pound for pound basis.
A woodworking evil villain is pretty tough. But
Hans Gruber, as an all time criminal mastermind, he's a better villain than Calitri. But Calitri, Hans Gruber just didn't. He wasn't much for muscle.
I feel like the scale, man, I don't know. We need to reevaluate this. So I'll tally this up and we'll look at this. But he got a 3 for look and style, a 1 for hideout and lair, a 5 for plan, and a 4 for henchman. A 13 out of 20 is really good, right? Yeah. But I feel like, and maybe you're right, it's the genius of the scale because it balances everybody out.
Can't have everybody have a 20.
We got a lot of 13s here, man.
Yeah.
He's in there with Shang Tsung, the Penguin, Strut, Dorian Tyrell, like. Maybe it's right.
No, he's where he belongs. I think he's where he belongs.
I don't know. I mean, there's people that are higher, but I feel like not many, right? I mean,
I've seen better, but not many, as a famous man once said.
It's interesting. So, I mean, so there you have it, guys. Hans Gruber, 13 out of 20 on the villain scale. Maybe we should do a card for him. He probably deserves it. We should bring the card out.
Is the card him falling, or should it be more dignified?
It could be him pretending to be an American too, which is.
Maybe we should respect him more.
I think it's maybe him pointing the gun at Tagaki or whatever. Or something, or him looking super annoyed at the guy who was trying to do a deal with him.
At Ellis. Yeah.
So, what about the ending of this movie? And I don't know. Like, do you think it ended correctly?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this is the type of movie that you wrap up quickly. You don't need to turn this into 2.5 hours. So.
Did you like that they had the credits scrolling as the movie continued? Sort of. I like that move.
Yeah, I like that move. It's a good move. Not used often.
It's an 80s move, but two things that stood out to me. The fact that McClane was just drenched in blood, dripping blood, bleeding profusely all over his wife.
Yeah.
And then the second thing of like him just driving off in the limo that's all busted up. Like, shouldn't he be in a hospital and shouldn't he be getting debriefed by the police?
Yeah, they need to make sure he's not in on it. They still don't know for sure who this guy is. I mean, once they interview him, they'll find out. But as far as the drenching blood while she's kissing him thing, like that's why they got married.
It's the manliest thing of all time.
That's why she fell in love with him. Is all this blood, the blood and guts.
Is there anything more manly than that?
It excites her.
Yeah.
And this will give them at least 3 months of reconciliation until they'll start arguing again.
What's the thing, like Army Hammer? That's like the blood thing. Is that allegedly?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
So I feel like it was an interesting move there, and obviously we know what happens to him in the second one. But I'll say I had fun watching this movie, and I would definitely watch it again. I actually purchased this on 4K, and it's one that I'm glad to have in the collection here. 5 out of 5. Letterboxd.
All-timer, sure.
So definitely curious what you guys think. You have to let us know, thelastrodpodcast@gmail.com. Write us in, leave a comment on the episode's page. I know we get some YouTube comments. Shout out to everybody else on the audience out on YouTube. Shout out to you, Jay. Leave us a note on Twitter at The Last Row Pod, or X, whatever we're calling it these days, and Instagram, so on and so forth. And if you're enjoying the show, you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. And we'll be back in 2 weeks on February 1st with a new episode for you guys. See ya. How many people has Ellis banged on that desk? I mean, he's done coke, but
on Holly's desk. Besides Holly.
Yeah. Besides Holly.
I mean, when you're on that much of a bedroom, you start to lose count.
I mean, is this guy just operating on coke? Like, does he not? He's not normal. He's not.
He's fueled.